Right, so you don't mute
Yes.
anymore.
All right, cool. All right. Yes, so it should, yes.
Will you just wait here for
Yes,
the first 10 minutes of the show as if we get comments of like things not working? Okay, so now it's,
Now the.
this is the host computer, but it can be listed as the producer.
Yes.
No longer mute because that sound is this.
Yes, and it's coming over remote one.
And then I'm muted now.
Yes.
I found the camera was there that I was looking
Well,
for. So, and then the phone should work.
The phones worked further also.
And then ideally, the same way that guests joined before should be exactly the same.
Yes, it'll be exactly the same.
And then in the future, in-person guests like Sandy, we just need a camera on them, on that laptop. But and then they still mute themselves on that laptop. All right, let's hope it works.
It will.
Why is it not editing? Why is it not? It's not getting rid of the. Oh, thank you. You're the best.
Exclusive Facebook group, Wisconsin Breaking News. It's a place to share your community's news and chat with others from across the state about it.
Join the Facebook group Wisconsin Breaking News today. It's the perfect companion to your local civic media radio station.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy.
From the Civic Media Radio Network, moving Wisconsin forward one joke at a time. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Brock.
Okay. Sure. It was very morbid at first. It's my last Monday. Oh yeah, it's gonna be my baby for a while, and we'll take care of it. Big fan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's functionally cool.
Who do you blame when it comes to the opioid crisis? Because there's a new poll out. Like for me, when I answer that question, I think of pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think of the Sackler family. I think of doctors who overprescribed. And I don't know if it's because the term opioid, which I think is different than when I think about like what comes to mind when I think of fentanyl. But I saw that there was a new poll out. And shockingly, the Mexican drug cartels is who US adults say is most responsible for the opioid crisis.
Yeah.
That shocked me.
I mean, were they asking all of my uncles? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense, but the moment they explain it, it does make sense. Why they would say that.
So, and I would love to hear from you, 844-967-2789. When you think of the opioid crisis, which has affected so many people, right? This is something that has touched so many families. And I started watching Painkillers last night, or Painkiller last night, which is Netflix's Dope Sick, basically. And I have not watched Dope Sick. I want to go back and watch that.
Wisconsin, who is this and where are you calling
For a
from?
bunch of awards, but both are about
Who is that?
the Sackler family. Both are about the rise
Brian
of the
or
opioid
Ryan?
epidemic. But we started watching Painkiller last night,
right.
and
you
I
want to talk
don't know
about
how
the opioid
much
crisis?
is over dramatized for the sake of the show, but what they are doing is they follow one storyline of the actual Sacklers.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're kind of
okay. Let me put you on hold, and we'll be with you in a moment.
What's the word that I want to use? Basically, the characterization of them is just profit-seeking, like money-hungry, bad people. Then there's one storyline of a young woman who gets caught up in being a pharmaceutical rep for Purdue Pharma, and what that's like as far as being going into these doctors' offices and pushing this thing and being a cute young girl and how you're supposed to talk to these doctors. And then there's a story of a guy who got hurt and got addicted and what that looks like and how his stepson then can take the pills and like give them to his friends and how that starts going. But so I would love to hear from you. 844-967-2789. Who do you blame for the opioid crisis? We got Brian on McGuanago on the phone. Hello, Brian. Who do you blame for the opioid crisis when you think of it?
I know.
Oh no, that clearly makes no sense. Your mic was down. How is that even possible?
They can hear me?
I was listening to the live stream. I'm sure it can go out on the radio. I I know that for sure.
Well, I'm not swearing. So
But I was listening to the live stream and I heard you screen the call on the live stream.
oh.
So that's interesting. So does it not the pharmaceutical companies?
Are the speakers on?
Yeah. Let me go ahead. No, go ahead.
As goes Wisconsin. What's up, Karina? Good morning. Okay. 1 second. As goes Wisconsin. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hey, man, 1 second. We got a couple people ahead of you. 1 moment. All right.
And so, geez, when you think about this, does like the Mexican drug cartels or U.S. drug users or like, do any of the foreign entities pop in your mind as people to blame?
Kristen needs to mute her. That's what's happening.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to Karina from Milwaukee.
She wants to know why you muted her.
Because I guess I unmute her, I guess, because I'm hearing us on the live stream with your mic down, and I don't know why.
Got it. Yeah, got it. Karina, we got to go to a break, so I got to cut you off. Oh, sorry, Karina. We'll come back on the other side. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Who do you blame for the opioid crisis? I was very surprised by this poll number as far as how many people blame the Mexican drug cartel and not pharmaceutical companies. So we'll keep talking about this after the break. Tanya Atkinson is going to be here at 10:30, President and CEO of Planned Parenthood Wisconsin. Stay with us. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
I don't.
Call your local auto glass now today for full details.
The Megan Dawn Show.
It makes no sense. His mic is down and off, and I'm hearing everything through it on the live stream.
Well, and also when I was muted in there, we were getting comments that they couldn't hear me.
Okay, try muting this one, I guess. I don't know. That doesn't make sense because they're originating.
Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. He is Greg Bach. We are we're 1 week out. 1 week out till baby BS comes, and so we have a full week of shows. Super excited about it. Full day today, and right now we are talking about who do you blame for the opioid crisis? Because I saw a poll that really shocked me today that says Americans most often blame Mexican drug cartels for the country's opioid crisis, followed by drug users themselves, according to Morning Consult polling data provided exclusively to Axios. And that's where I got this morning. So in order of this, it was surveyed almost 2,000 people. This was conducted between August 29th and September 1st. At 56%, Americans blame Mexican drug cartels, then US drug users at 53%, Chinese suppliers of fentanyl or its ingredients, then the Mexican government, then the US government, then the Chinese government, and then pharmaceutical companies. And that just shocked me. And maybe it's because, as I said in the last segment, I just started watching Painkiller, which is the Netflix version of Sackler and Purdue Pharma, which so squarely points the finger at that company and that family, and then the doctors who overprescribed. But it was so shocking to me that this is the order that, at least in this poll, where people place blame. And I think it's important to talk about because this is something that has affected so many people. So we're asking you, who do you blame for? Who do you blame the opioid crisis on? So let's go to Price in Texas. Price, what do you think? Mm. Thanks so much for the call, Price. That is true as far as who's picking up the phone for a call for a poll like this. This is the methodology. This is what was listed as this survey was conducted August 29th to September 1st among a representative sample of 1,995 registered voters. Results from the full survey have an unweighted margin of error of plus and minus 2 percentage points, and that's at least the information given on the article that I read. But that doesn't give a lot more on what a representative sample actually looks like. But it's a good point. Question your polls. Question the methodology, question who funded it. It's, not, you don't have to totally distrust polls, especially the Marquette poll, we love the Marquette poll. We love Charles Franklin. Absolutely. We have a text from John from the Falls. I don't either. And I think that's why this was so shocking to me. And basically what this is framed at is in the Axios article is how this is potentially an edge for the GOP going into next year, because it's potentially being able to frame this as a security issue. It's border crisis, it's foreign entities, it's things that we need to crack down on, versus what our callers so far have said today is like, actually, it's capitalism, it's big pharma, it's giving your unlimited donations to political campaigns, and it's having politicians in your pockets. Like, it's a lot of stuff inside the house. Like, the call is coming from inside the house, and maybe we should work on that before we're just like projecting blame onto foreign entities and just saying, oh, well, if we would have just built that wall, this would have never happened. Exactly. That's actually a very good point, Greg. Personal responsibility. All right. Well, I think this is really fascinating as far as how it goes kind of back to a lot of things as far as what people's perceptions are. I can't totally recommend Painkillers yet because I'm only 2 episodes in. I'm compelled by the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have to cross-check and see how fictionalized it is, versus and how much I should be like, oh, this is what happened. Instead of it's not a documentary. So all right.
For our podcast.
When we come back, Tanya Atkinson will be here from Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin. She is the CEO and president. We will talk about their decision to reinstate abortion services as of today. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Person says, I think your mic should be on mute. I don't know. I mean, here's the What I need from both of you, though, I need people to remain calm, because when it's swirling in here, I'm trying to do stuff. Did I do that?
No, Corey did it.
$1 billion in Iranian assets held in South Korea. Chief Foreign Affairs
I'm assuming so. He told me he was.
They are headed for Doha, and that is where they will finally be in U.S. custody. Right now, on that plane, they are accompanied by the Swiss ambassador to Tehran. That person is acting as an
Corey is working on it right now.
Does not have any diplomatic ties with Iran.
As far as I'm concerned, if they can hear my voice, they can hear your guests. You said something about not hearing the music on the live stream. I don't so much care about that.
It's something with the mics. It's something how the mics are plugged into here.
So, yeah, I mean, does that even mean?
I mean, because if you think about it before, I don't know. But this is why it's frustrating when it's like we can't We can only trial and error this when we're live on air.
I understand.
It's like,
I
Also, I don't know if they can hear her talking right now.
With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. A man that took off from the Kenosha Correctional Facility Friday may have gone to Milwaukee. 45-year-old inmate Abram Jefferson is described as black, 6 foot tall, weighing 216, with black hair and brown eyes. Jefferson had been serving a 3-year sentence for domestic violence. He was transferred to the Kenosha Correctional Center from the Dodge Correctional Institution in July. The noise in Franklin isn't going away. People in the area are upset following the recent Tacos and Tequila Festival held at Franklin Field Saturday night. People living nearby are reporting that the noise levels were excessively high, and the approximately 10,000 strong crowd was unruly. Neighbors say the situation isn't new, and that they've submitted numerous complaints over the course of several years about the noise. With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
Talking to your kids about the dangers of vaping can be hard. Getting them to listen to hot gossip is easy.
Oh.
So here's some drama you could share with your kid. Dude, did you hear about Cassie and Jake? No, but did you hear that vaping can cause irreversible lung damage and nicotine affects brain development? Nuh-uh. You don't need to gossip if you want to have an open conversation about vaping. So if you want to get tips on when and how to talk to your kids, visit talkaboutvaping.org.
Let's talk about
Brought to you by
vaping.
the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, we're the Google Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to
Yeah.
grow and learn.
Trust
That
me,
isn't the case for nearly
I am thinking about
13
having a
million
cigarette
kids
right
in
now
the
too,
US
so.
that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescue
Okay, Corey, you need to
food that would have gone to waste.
give up control because I gotta come back.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you
Is
by
it-
Feeding America.
Is it a muting of any of the search engines? I know that sometimes that's a problem.
Two kinds of politicians, those who want to be and those who want to do. Tommy Thompson, John McCain.
I have no idea. You got Corey working too, so.
Because there were things that they wanted to do. The Todd Alma Show. Now contrast that to Hillary Clinton, I would argue, or Donald Trump. Sure, there are things they want to do, but ultimately they are like Scott Walker. They were people who want to be. The Todd Alma Show. Weekday afternoons from 1 till 3 on your local civic media radio station and on the app. Pursuing the truth wherever it may lead. The Todd Alma Show, weekday afternoons from 1 till 3. Join the conversation. Get involved. The Todd.
Music's not playing at all.
It's not.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. He is Greg Bach. And it is Monday, September 18th. And we're waiting for Tanya Atkinson to join us, Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin CEO and President, because as of today, Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin will resume abortion services in 2 different clinics. And they announced this last Thursday. Literally, they announced it last Thursday while we were live on air. And we have not had a chance to really break down what that means. And so we're excited to be able to talk to Tanya. But as far as understanding, my questions really surround the legal challenges because the court case, the lawsuit that was filed, has not been decided on. And if we think about this from the standpoint of what Justice Janet Kosewitz was a centerpiece of her campaign, us knowing that this lawsuit that had been filed is likely going to end up in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And so far, it actually hasn't even been finally ruled on in the Dane County Court, Circuit Court. But what happened in June was basically, so June 2022, if you remember, Democratic Attorney General Josh Paul brought a lawsuit to the Dane County Circuit Court challenging the 1849 law. That lawsuit sought to clarify whether the ban is still in effect and if it contends the abortion restrictions passed since Roe v. Wade superseded that 1849 law. So then the court case still currently is with Dane County Circuit Judge Diane Schlipper, and she issued an order suggesting that she believes the 1849 law applies only to, actually, don't know how to pronounce it, feticide? Feticide?
Feticide.
Feticide.
I think it's feticide.
Feticide, which is killing a fetus by assaulting and battering. So basically not having the mother's consent. And so but she hasn't actually ruled yet. That was just issuing an order back in July, early July. So then Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin officials said they recognize that this order isn't the final say, which is expected to be appealed once. This kind of was like an indicator of where Schippler's going to rule. But then likely once her ruling comes down, that will be appealed and then go to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, where we finally finalize. But so my question kind of becomes like, what does that mean for legal protections for the providers? Basically.
Yeah.
And so it's like, they're obviously have talked to enough of their lawyers that this is going to be, they think that they're covered. They think that they're fully able to provide these resources and these services, but it still feels like a very gray area to me.
When I saw the announcement, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. But my immediate response was like, how are they going to do it?
I know.
Like, I mean, just really going for it and providing the access and the care that women need. But yeah, just at the end of the day saying, how do we know that they're just not going to bust through the door or start arresting everybody in the room?
And it's also, I mean, this gets into the ability to think about what was also pretty contentious when Dobbs first came out and Roe first got overturned, is that you had certain district attorneys saying, we're not going to prioritize prosecuting this. And largely that's Dane County and Milwaukee County.
Yeah.
And so there's also that aspect of it. But basically, the laws that existed and the cases that had been ruled on since that 1849 ban, which is ridiculous. Have I ever told you the story of when this first came down and I went to Old World, Wisconsin with Mike, because I was doing like they were doing their like new beer, like this is how we used to make beer. I was going there and I was making a video for Wisconsin Historical Society, and then we like decided to actually hang out for a while.
Yeah.
And because it was my first time ever going to Old World, Wisconsin, and so and once we were there, I was on the hunt because all of the buildings at Old World, Wisconsin are excavated real buildings that existed. And I was looking for a building that was older than this law. And I found one. And it was like a shack. And it was like a little like Norwegian one-room farmhouse. And
that makes sense.
So, yeah, and it was like, this law is old. A lot has happened since then. I think that we have Tanya on the line. Tanya, are you there?
Hold on one second.
Okay. And so anyway, that's a big echo. And so I thought I saw her join, and I'm not.
She looks to have joined. I don't see her mic is muted. Oh,
Tanya, are you there?
Give me one second. Okay, here we go.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Kristen. How are you? Hi, Greg. I think I was in the wrong green room. I ate somebody else's M&Ms.
There we go. Yep. Yeah. Can you hear me, Tanya?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Tanya, give us a call at 844-967-282789. Sorry. What was it?
844
844
967
967
2789.
2789. Give us a call and we'll get you on the phone line right away and we'll get this taken care of.
Great.
So anyway, so we were talking to, we're gonna get her on the phone. We'll probably keep her for the next segment.
Yeah.
We'll keep her for both segments because we're just, this is so fun.
So fun.
So fun. And so it's just such a fun way to be doing all of this in my last week as far as, but what I was going to say is, before Tanya joined, is that since the 1849 ban happened, there was 2 court cases that talked about this. In 1985, lawmakers passed a law that said abortion was only a crime after a fetus was viable, meaning there's a reasonable likelihood of sustained survival of the fetus outside the womb, with or without artificial support. And that's where we had joined with the 20-week limitation. And then, but also in 1994, Wisconsin Supreme Court case found that the 1849 law applied only
Yes, it is.
feticide,
Okay, great.
the killing of unborn child, often violently without the mother's consent. And so we're trying again. Tanya, are you there?
I am. I think I was in the wrong green room. I ate somebody else's M&Ms.
All right. I think I can hear you. How are we doing this?
We're doing.
Let's do this.
Hear me?
We're doing this.
Yes. Yes.
Great. We got it figured out. Do you love technology, Tanya?
I do love technology, but technology didn't love me today. So
absolutely, it hasn't loved us for a couple days. So we are managing through though. But I'm so excited to see you. I'm so excited. This was big news, and so I have to imagine the last couple of days for you has been a whirlwind. But as far as kind of talk me through how long this has been in process and what were all the variables that you all considered as you decided to make this decision.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. And I'm really excited to see you as well. So, when Roe was overturned, and I did hear you talking about this a little bit, when Roe was overturned, there was that 1849 law that was still on the books, and it was unclear whether or not it was enforceable. And so, we made the incredibly difficult decision to suspend abortion services. And, flash forward, X number of months, we contended all along that, we made a commitment, first of all, to resuming abortion services as soon as we had clarity around the law. And there was 2 ways that we could have gotten clarity. One is through the legislature or through a legal path. Now we know the legislature wasn't a path. And so the focus was a legal path. When the Attorney General filed his lawsuit, and then the Dane County Circuit Judge ruled that the law was not enforceable. The 1849 law was not enforceable for voluntary abortions. We immediately continued planning with that in mind. And then there was a second ruling in August where she reaffirmed and was crystal clear that this law wasn't applicable to voluntary abortions. So we kept that momentum going, working with legal teams and physicians and stakeholders, and then we're able to make the decision to start services today.
And so I guess the big question is, because I think the thing that everyone should know is, no matter what, whether it was before you all made this decision and services were resuming today and going forward, an individual who is seeking an abortion cannot get charged in Wisconsin. That was never part of the deal. This was always whether or not providers could be charged. And so knowing that, and then knowing that there's the lawsuit itself is still pending, what protections, I guess, like how are the providers who are going, because we had Kristen Lyerly, she's on every Thursday, and so she told me she's one of the people who's going to be a provider. And so it's like, what are the legal protections as far as the providers who are now stepping up and going to be the people who are resuming the services? Like, I get like what have your lawyers told you as far as like what that coverage looks like?
Yeah, well, I mean, the legal protection is that the judge has been very clear twice now that this is not enforceable. So, that's the legal protection, is that it's not enforceable for voluntary abortions. So that's the judge could not have been more clear. And in reaffirming that, she referenced a Supreme Court case from the 90s. So 3 times now it's been very clear that this law is not enforceable. So that's the protection.
Got it. And so what do you think, like, I mean, obviously this is just starting today, but as far as the positive impacts that this is going to have on patients, that this is going to have on staff, what is the, I guess that's the question. What are the positive impacts that you foresee this having?
Well, as you know, abortion is healthcare, and the people of Wisconsin will be able to receive abortion in their home state. We've seen what's happened with the barriers that have been put up by having to travel to other states, by patients having to travel to other states, and the barriers are huge. And for some people, they're insurmountable. So to be able to have this healthcare in people's backyard is critical to receiving time-sensitive care that really matters for people's health and lives.
And so one of the things about this, like we said, it's Madison and Milwaukee are the two places where this is getting resumed. That is a huge swath of Wisconsin that is not covered, but it also wasn't covered even before Dobbs. And so as you look forward into this lawsuit as it continues, but also the services as Planned Parenthood can provide, like, what are the other services, initiatives that are happening to continue to try to serve the whole state as we navigate these waters?
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question. So we consider this a first step in both protecting access to abortion care, but also looking forward in the future to expanding access, because you are correct about access across the state. Even before Dobbs, for some people, abortion was very difficult to access with long travel times, and with our 24-hour waiting period. So we are looking forward into the future about how to expand access. And I think it's important for people to know that though we're expanding access, we still have to comply with all of those restrictions that were in place before Dobbs. And Wisconsin has got one of the longest lists of abortion restrictions in the entire country. So in order to expand access, we really have to look at, what are ways that we can get rid of some of those restrictions so that we can reach a larger swath of the state.
Absolutely. We have to go to break. Tanya, can you stick around through the break?
Absolutely.
Great. All right. We will be back with Tanya Atkinson, who is the CEO and president of Planned Parenthood Wisconsin. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. We got Greg back on the board, and we were talking to Tanya Atkinson, who is the Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin CEO and president. And today is a big day because after, what would it be, 14 months, 15 months of suspending abortion care when the Dobbs decision came out in June 2022, as of today, abortion services are resuming in Madison and Milwaukee at their two health centers, at Planned Parenthood's two health centers, which for many of us who know how important safe access to care is, this is a huge win. And I have to admit, I am a week and a half away from giving birth. And
I heard, congratulations.
Thank you. It has been a weird time to be pregnant in this state, to have a wanted pregnancy in this state, let alone what I can imagine for women who have had unwanted pregnancies, or people who have had unwanted pregnancies over the last 14 months. Because as I asked my doctor at my 10-week check-in back in March, what if something happens? And her answer was, we have a way to get to Chicago. And what a terrible response. I mean, not her response, that was the answer, right? But as far as I won't be able to help you as your doctor, but I will find a way to get you help somewhere else. And so to know that we're marching back towards having safe access to care for everyone who needs it, no matter how they feel about their pregnancy, to me is a relief. And I can imagine, as someone like you who's dedicated their life to this and to providing care, it is a big win.
Thank you, Kristen. First of all, congratulations. And thank you for sharing that story. And I think what you say really underscores, the scope of the potential restrictions, not just in Wisconsin, but we're seeing across the country. As our, doctors, remind us on a regular basis, abortion is ending a pregnancy for whatever reason that pregnancy needs to be ended. And when, we were forced to make that agonizing decision to suspend care, people were very concerned about pregnancy, even if people were trying to get pregnant, really concerned about what that would mean, because as you know, pregnancy is extremely complicated. And abortion is a part of pregnancy overall and care, as you asked your doctor early on in your pregnancy because you understood that pregnancies are complicated. And so I think that's that is really important to continue to remind people that this is not having access is dangerous. I think the other thing, in your story is, potentially how your doctor felt, not being able, if something, were to have happened, being helpless to be able to provide you the care that you needed right in front of them, when you are right there in their office. And we know, from our own physicians and others having to send people out of state when they have the skill set to do that themselves. And the final thing I would lift up here is that, almost immediately when Roe fell and the question of the 1849 law came up, people who were slated to come to Wisconsin medical schools were withdrawing their applications. Yeah. Other students who are already here were questioning whether or not they wanted to stay. And, as I'm also from rural Wisconsin, and, it is really difficult to find OBGYNs or physicians at all. And not, of course, just in rural Wisconsin. Access is challenged everywhere when it comes to reproductive health care and, OB-GYN, providers. So this also has the effect of, the chilling effect of people wanting to come to Wisconsin, our incredible state, wanting to come to Wisconsin and be medical practitioners or staying in their home state and being a OBGYN. So lots of really critical things wrapped up in your own personal experience in the story you shared. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think that it touches so many things. It touches so many things as far as healthcare, and it is so personal, and it's so nuance that it's very frustrating to continue to have the fight in Wisconsin, the fight nationally, of people who think they know best and know better than doctors and know better than the people who are trying to make decisions for their own lives. And so I guess my other question is, obviously Planned Parenthood is and has been a leader in safe and accessible care. Do you think that your decision, the Planned Parenthood's decision, not you, Tanya's decision, will empower other providers as far as their feeling as though they also, the law does cover them, and will also, there could be more places that feel like they can also resume abortion care?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. First, I think it's important for people to know that Planned Parenthood Wisconsin receives referrals from other health systems. And as of right now, Planned Parenthood Wisconsin is the only provider of voluntary abortions. So, and all that said, you know, there are other incredible healthcare systems in the state, and we're really grateful for their partnership. They do provide care, as you know, in all the circumstances. Now, they also, as far as we know, have suspended their services, except for that very, very narrow exception. And so I can't really say at this time whether or not, what that means for the other health systems. I can say that, we have some great partnerships with the health systems, and they've, they'll continue to be partners, but I definitely cannot speak to whether or not they're going to start providing care again.
Absolutely. And then the final reminder, we only have about a minute left, but because I will always think it's very important for everyone to know that Planned Parenthood has a wide variety of services that they offer. And so a quick plug for all the different things that people can go to Planned Parenthood for the last 14 months going forward, as far as what people can rely on their local center for.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to first say, please go to www.ppwi.org, and you can find a list of all the services there. We have 22 health centers across the state, and we provide a very wide scope of reproductive and sexual health care services. Of course, birth control, STD testing and treatment, and a couple that I want to lift up is cancer screening, prevention, intervention, and gender-affirming hormone therapy. And we have most of our services are also available via telehealth, and for people who are contracepting, they can get it delivered right to their door for almost every single method.
Amazing. And under the time limit. Tanya Atkinson, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to take a break for the top of the hour news. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Great. Thank you all. Take good care.
Up North News Radio with Pat Kreitlow. Yeah, Todd Alba would normally be sharing his dulcet tones with us, but I recall that last week Todd was having issues with the cable company, with an internet connection. I'm now thinking, Todd Alba, did you break Spectrum? Are you responsible for this ESPN mess? I was sitting to book everything else, so it wouldn't surprise me, no. North News Radio with Pat Kreitlow, weekday mornings 6 till 8 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Thank you for listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Now join us anytime by finding and following our Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram pages. You'll also find social media links.
Right now, producer PC's on and Walker turns on. Those are the only things, and the studio mic one's on.
You're listening to the Shaw, WAUK 540 AM check.
Talk into the mic.
It's off.
Okay, yeah, we don't. I think that's just talk without saying anything, without changing anything.
Okay. Check 1, check 2, check 1, 2.
Okay, he talked. Correct.
Sorry, tell him sorry. Tell him to stop fighting me. Stop. Dude, he's got to let me have control for a second.
Hey, okay.
He's good, done. Joe?
I don't know what is going on.
Cool, man. I'm gonna put you on hold. We're coming back in about 5 minutes, okay? All right, thanks.
Talking to the mic again, Greg, just how it was.
Check, check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. This is me talking into the mic.
Yes, but it's the Logitech one we use. It's the same one I use for Matt's show on Friday. Okay. I can't figure out how to. StreamYard's not giving me an option to switch my. No, what? On the streamer. I just don't understand why the. What I'm not understanding is why the webcam. It's not plugged in the computer that is the remote PC. Yes. Okay. So. Yeah, that's pretty much constant. Okay, so this how doesn't the originating PC have to be unmuted for it to get to stream?
Any update on why this is?
He's talking to Corey right now, and Corey is in the computer. I don't know. All I know is that all of the mics are unmuted on StreamYard, which I don't like because.
Okay, mute your StreamYard. Greg.
My StreamYard.
Yes, your StreamYard. Might be the guess.
How about now? Oh, that's for a reason. I am muted.
Emergency Repair is playing today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You are never far away from your favorite local radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app, and we invite you to get social with us by following our network.
Okay.
Twitter,
It's on
Instagram,
camera.
Facebook.
From the Civic Media Radio Network, moving Wisconsin forward one joke at a time. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Broad.
Let's go where no one knows.
Now, here's your host, Kristen Broad.
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the second hour, the 11 o'clock hour of As Goes Wisconsin. I am your host, Kristen Bry. We got Greg Bach on the board, and I am so excited for our next guest, who officially is a guest. He is usually a listener, frequent caller, frequent contributor to the show, and we always appreciate his input. But the backstory behind this is, what is time? But often there are headlines these days that sound something like Wisconsin's elder care facilities face staffing financial challenges that threaten care. Senior living facilities in Wisconsin, staffing shortage is a crisis. Complaints against assisted living facilities rising as staff shortage persists. We are in this state and across the country, a crisis in elderly care, and both finding something that is affordable, finding good care. And it is something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about because you don't want to think about it. And so in a previous issue, when we've talked about this on the show in the past, Joe called in because Joe, this is what he specializes in. Joe McClear of McClear Law Office in Oshkosh, specializes in long-term care planning. And we wanted to have him back to talk about this issue, both as a crisis, what policy could actually change some of this, but ultimately, regardless of what policy changes happen, what you can do to prepare for either yourself or your parents as they age amidst this crisis. So, welcome to the show as a guest, Joe.
Thank you, Kristen. Greg, nice to meet you finally.
Hello, Joe.
So I guess let's just set the foundation of this as far as something that you work with every day. How would you describe the situation we are in currently in Wisconsin when it comes to elderly care and assisted living?
Well, you said the word crisis more than once, and I cannot emphasize that enough, that it is indeed a crisis. We are entering a time when the boomers are entering their retirement age, and the average age in this country is just going up. Our retired population is just going through the roof. So long-term care should be a booming industry, but at least in this state, it's not. We're having more facilities closed down than we are open up over the last 5 years. And of course, you mentioned the staffing issues, the quality of care issues. It's a real problem. And if we don't address it soon as a society, then what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be pretty dire for us all, I would say.
And so, maybe to actually scare everyone, what does dire look? What does dire look like? Does that mean people just dying at home and not getting care? Like, what does that look like when you say dire? That it could be worse than what it is now?
Well, let's before we jump to that extreme, let's take the more realistic possibility is that if you need long-term care or someone you care about needs long-term care, you're not going to find a facility anywhere close to you. I recall seeing a segment, I think on CBS, maybe last year, about how it was 5 hours away. Now, that's possibly going to be coming to Wisconsin fairly soon, particularly if in the more rural areas. You're going to be looking for a facility, and there either is not going to be anyone near you, or they're going to be full, or they're going to be requiring an upfront showing of an ability to pay privately that many people are not going to be able to afford. So they'll be looking far and wide for a facility that's going to have a bed and maybe take them on Medicaid sooner than later if they don't have the funds to pay privately. That's the immediate problem. Second of all, if somebody needs facility care, I'm not supposed to say facility. I'm told I'm supposed to say community, but everyone knows them as facilities. But if there aren't any nearby, then what they're going to end up doing is they're going to be taking up hospital beds, unfortunately. And they're going to be staying in hospitals, and they're going to be racking up bills through that method. Some people do have the option of staying at home, being cared for by loved ones, by adult children, but that's a lot to ask of families nowadays. For the most part, facilities are in need, and we are going to have issues with them coming up.
So I want to talk about the policy aspect of this as far as what from our lawmakers, both in the state or federally, could be done to alleviate this problem. Mm-hmm. So, and that can be changed both at the state level and the federal level, or is it separate decisions that get made as far as how this gets funded federally versus in Wisconsin? Okay. Okay. Because, and I think this is the gap, right? Because you don't need it until you don't need it, and you're healthy until you're not. And so what is the likelihood that someone will need long-term care?
'65, and I say that with sincerity because I, deal with a lot of cases where that's not the instant. If that doesn't happen, but if we are lucky enough to reach age 65, then we have entered an age period where there is a 70% chance that we're going to need long-term care at some point in the future.
70.
Yes. 70% chance we're going to need long-term care at some point in the future. And that's just for an individual. For married couples, if you're in that age range, that means if you play the math out, there's a 91% chance that one of the spouses is going to need long-term care, and just under 50% that they're both going to need long-term care. So this idea is, well, that's something for other folks. That's something that I'm not going to have to worry about. Here's my plan. I'm never going to get sick. I'm never going to have Alzheimer's or dementia. I'm never going to have a stroke. I'm never going to have, my body's never going to fail me. That's just not a plan. That's playing with fire right there. It is not a certainty, but it's pretty darn close. And if you don't plan for it, you could be setting yourself and your family up for a heap of trouble.
Because it's also, I love that sometimes when people talk about who's going to take care of you when you're older if you don't have kids.
Right.
But the thing is, even if you have kids, the expectation that your kids have the training to be able to take care of you when you talk about recovering from a stroke, when you talk about someone who has Alzheimer's, when you talk about the high need of care that can happen by the time that you need to be living in an assisted or long-term care facility, the likelihood that your children have the housing that is ADA approved so that you can live in there, let alone that they can help, I would imagine is low.
It's very low. It does not work out most of the time. It causes an immense amount of family stress. I recall an instance where a mother moved in with her son and daughter-in-law. Within 6 months, daughter-in-law moved out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It really puts a strain on the household. And now that marriage worked out because eventually mother moved into a facility, daughter-in-law moves back in. But yet, well, folks aren't ready for the training, aren't ready for the responsibility that involves taking care of an elderly person who needs help with getting changed, bathing themselves, using the bathroom, feeding themselves. It's an awesome responsibility. And if you're not prepared for it, and most of us are not, things are going to fall apart pretty quickly.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to take a break because I want to keep you through the break. We're going to talk about it in the next commercial. After the next commercial, a little bit more details as far as how much does this actually cost? How do people plan to pay for it? What protections are there? What does insurance, like long-term care insurance, actually look like? So we'll be a little less doom and gloom, a little bit more what you can do now to prepare for this.
Hopefully.
When we come back from the next break. But our guest is Joe McClear of McClear Law Office in Oshkosh. If you have any questions for him, are you willing to take some questions via text?
Please, yes.
All right, 844-967-2789. If you have any questions for the lawyer about long-term care planning, text them in 844-96-PARTY. And we will be back right after the break. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Uh-oh, did a rock hit your windshield from that semi? Don't worry, Autoglass Now offers fast, reliable, and convenient service. For a limited time only, Autoglass Now is offering 50% off windshield replacement. Call your local Autoglass Now today for full details.
Red Delicious, Honeycrisp, Granny Smith. If you have a favorite apple, now is the time to pick it straight from the source. Did you know Wisconsin has more than 300 apple orchards? Travel Wisconsin recently naming its favorites, including the Oneida National Apple Orchard outside Green Bay, Ferguson's Orchards in Eau Claire, and Apple Holler south of Racine. Many provide tons of family fun in the fall, too. Tire swings, lawn bowling, hay rides, and more. Apple experts suggest if you want to pick yours fresh, do it before the end of October. For Civic Media, I'm Terry.
US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous.
Actually, I could have said huzzah.
Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon, with highs around 68. Winds out of the northwest around 5 miles an hour. Overcast tonight, lows level off around 52. Cloudy again tomorrow, chance for scattered showers, high of 66. Upper 70s Wednesday and Thursday, with a chance for scattered storms Wednesday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently 6.
To As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is on the board, and we are talking to Joe McClear of McClear Law Office in Oshkosh, where he focuses on elderly care. And so we are talking about long-term planning and the fact that the staggering stat that you gave that anyone who lives past 65, there is a 70% chance that they will end up needing some kind of long-term assisted living care is a wild stat that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about and they don't necessarily save for, because what, in your experience of working with people with long-term care planning, what do they need to be beyond retirement to live off of? What is the expected annual cost of being able to live in long-term care?
It's not great. First of all, Can you hear me now that we're doing
you.
Okay,
yes,
wonderful. So right now, it depends on where you live in the state. It can vary a little bit. But if we're just talking, say, an assisted living facility, which is what most people consider would be moving into, you're still looking at somewhere in the range of $5,000 to $6,000 a month. If you're talking a nursing home, which is more extreme when you really need a lot of help around the clock care, it's more along the lines of $9,000 to $10,000 a month. Now, in your area, in the Milwaukee area, it's actually more along the lines of $12,000 a month for a nursing home. Now, that's just right now. I would love to say that these costs have plateaued, but obviously they have not. There is a really neat website that Genworth puts out where you can look at not only the costs around the country right now, but you can project into the future. So, Greg, may I pick on you?
What's stopping you from before?
Oh, Greg, you're more than lovely. Trust me. Thank you.
Marry me. Go on.
Now, Greg, can I ask you, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm 45.
45. Okay. So now the average age of when folks go into a facility, assisted living or nursing home, is usually between 75 and 84. So we always hope for the best. Let's plan for everything. Let's just say at 75, you're going to be going into a long-term care facility. Now, you say it's a nursing home. Can you guess what the monthly cost is going to be for you?
Well, I mean, in a 30 years from now,
30 years
my
from
guess
now.
is probably going to be $25,000 to $30,000 a month.
Ding, ding, ding. $25,000 a month at a nursing home. And that's a statewide number. Good job, by the way. We'll send you home with a prize packet.
A McClear magnet for my fridge.
McClear merch.
I got a lot of swag I could send to you. All right. So yeah, it's the prices are, the costs are astronomical. They're bad now. They're just going to get worse. So what people need is an ability to pay. But, I talked about Medicaid. Well, here's the deal. Medicaid, because it does not pay the full cost of care, most facilities, the vast majority of facilities, will stop you at the door and say, hey, show us you can pay privately for a period of, so it could be 6 months at the bottom end, could be 3 years on the high end. And they're not doing that to be greedy because they want those private funds. They're doing that because that's the only way they can keep the lights on, keep the doors open. So right now, ideally, and this is ideal, okay? Don't feel bad if this is not going to happen to you. I always tell folks that ideally, when it comes to long-term care, each individual will have somewhere between $200,000 to $250,000 right now to set aside for long-term care costs. Because one, that's going to open more doors for you in terms of what facilities you want to go to. You want to go to the nicer facility, you want to go to the more local facility. The more funds you have available to you to go in there and say, hey, look, I can pay privately for a year or two, then that's going to be more helpful for you in the long run. For most people, that's going to be their retirement accounts, their IRAs, their 401ks, their 403bs, and the like. You saved up for their retirement. If you have still some at the end when you need to get into a facility, well, there's not much we can do in terms of protecting that. So you have to look at that as a way of saying, all right, hey, nice facility in town. Look, I can pay privately for 2 years. Let me in. You're going to be in a much better position otherwise. But even if you don't have that ability, fret not. There are other options for you. If you are a veteran, or a surviving spouse of a veteran, there could be additional income sources for you from the VA to help pay for long-term care costs. There's something called the aid and attendance benefit, which for wartime veterans or the surviving spouse could be anywhere from $1,500 a month to over $3,000 a month of additional income to help get you into a nicer facility. But other than that, you got to be prepared. Ideally, you have a good insurance policy. Long-term care insurance is its own product. They're really looking for people in that 45 to 55 range, people who are not going to need it for several decades. Mm-hmm. But even if you have passed that, you're in your 60s or even closer to 70s, you always could be options for you when it comes down to policies. There's your traditional policies, which works like healthcare policies where you use it or you lose it. But there are other types of policies that are more palatable where you can put a bunch of money into it. But if you don't actually need the long-term care, it can come back to your family. You get your premiums back or come back in the form of life insurance. There's a lot to cover, and I see we only got a couple of minutes left. I mean, this would be its whole hour-long segment.
Well, we'll just have to have you back.
Exactly.
Jane and Greg will have you back while I'm on maternity leave.
Because I for real
with childcare.
I for real have questions on planning because my mom is pretty planned to the hilt. She's doing everything. She's got her long-term care plan. She's got her estate plan. And I want to start thinking about that now.
Smart.
Versus later.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to contact you separately.
There you go. You got you potentially, and I think my parents are also going to contact you. So we're just getting Joe business out here on As Goes Wisconsin. But Joe, thank you so much. We love that you are such a loyal listener and all the contributions you make as a listener. We love having you on as a guest. And this is so interesting. And also so important. So we will definitely have you back to dive more deeply into all of this when it comes to long-term planning. Joe McClear of McClear Law Office. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Love the show. Take care.
All right. Goodbye. We're going to be talking to Tom Still from Wisconsin Technology Council when we come back. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Whether you're heading down Les Paul Parkway or fighting traffic on the interstates, this is The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
CBS News special report. 5 Americans held prisoner by Iran are in Doha after their release this morning. Secretary of State Antony Blinken just a moment ago.
I spoke to them after they landed in Doha. It was, for them, for me, an emotional conversation.
Oh, check 1, 2. Can you hear? Right. Right now, I am not unmuted because it seemed to be working, but
Screens or exclusive professional networks or stereotypes. Don't let anything keep you from discovering the half of the workforce who are stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time to tear the paper ceiling and see the stars beyond it. Find out how you can make stars part of your talent strategy at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
RPG came through the belly of the aircraft. We don't talk about the female combat wounded. These are our daughters and our sisters and our mothers. Wounded Warrior Project came into my life and taught me how to stand back up and get back in the fight. The truth is, I think we all have this strength inside of us, but until you're tested, you just don't know it's there.
See how Wounded Warrior Project empowers women veterans like Beth by visiting woundedwarriorproject.org/empowerwomenvets.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. We got Greg Bach on the board, and our next guest, Tom Still, is president of the Wisconsin Technology Council, which is the science and technology policy advisor to the Wisconsin governor and the legislature. He is a former newspaper editor, special projects coordinator, and reporter who continues to write about business, technology, and public policy in Wisconsin. Welcome back to the show, Tom.
Pleased to be back. Thanks, Kristen. Hi, Greg.
So we think it was back in July was the last time that we had you on, and we talked a little bit about what the Wisconsin Technology Council is. But for people who are maybe new listeners or didn't hear that segment, how would you describe in layman's terms what WTC does and is?
Sure. We're a nonprofit that plays in the policy arena a little bit, especially with the state legislature, but also some other levels. And we connect entrepreneurs and investors. We have events that provide networking. We do some writing on special issues that affect the tech economy in Wisconsin. So that's us in a nutshell.
Absolutely. And so since July, I guess, what are some of the major maybe projects or initiative that have come down? I mean, since I think was the budget done by the last time that we spoke? And as far as Wisconsin Innovation Fund or any kind of the things that have been thrown out there to bolster startups, bolster tech, and trying to make tech a thing in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And we are a thing.
We are a
want to
thing. But as far
that.
as the continued effort to
Absolutely
make people think of Wisconsin as far as the outside of Silicon Valley, outside of Austin, outside of Nashville, think of Wisconsin as a startup spot.
Yeah, well, for starters, every time it's 101 degrees and above in Phoenix, they probably, maybe somebody there's thinking of us, right? But some good things have happened. What's called the Badger Fund of Funds, which is an investment group in Wisconsin, received an additional investment through the state budget. That's good. We think that'll help with young companies. The Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation is getting ready to launch another $50 million fund that had some financing through some federal sources. That's good. We're continuing to see things about data centers that can be cropping up in the state. And broadband, there's an effort right now to sort of reduce the tax on broadband expansions in parts of Wisconsin. So I think on all fronts, things are moving along fairly well.
That's exciting. And actually, it's funny that you mention Phoenix and some of these places that are much hotter and have specifically this year been much hotter.
Yeah.
Is that a competitive play for Wisconsin? Because you think about the air conditioning that any of these data centers or any place that has a ton of servers and computers that needs a lot of air conditioning because those computers can't get overheated. Is our climate actually a competitive advantage as far as trying to appeal to companies to host or to have those companies here? Because it's like, listen, your air conditioning bill is going to be a lot less here.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I think so. It's definitely an advantage in a couple different ways. First of all, the heat, as you mentioned, like in parts of the Southwest and other places, that what you just described is certainly an issue. Here we have a history of pretty reliable power. So that's a good thing. I think the network in Wisconsin and a little bit beyond is really kind of strong. The other piece is water. So let's say you're in Arizona and you're running a chip manufacturing factory. That uses a lot of water. Does Arizona have a lot of water right now? It might be questionable. So, but we do, and we also have a lot of things that really help position manufacturers in both ways, energy and water, and just throughout manufacturing, because there's a need to conserve both. So, in fact, we're part of a National Science Foundation planning grant in that specific area.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, one of only a couple in the country. And so I think we got some advantages over that. We've seen some things lately with migration statistics. I don't know if it's Gen Xers boomeranging back, or if it's climate, or if it's thinking, no, this is a better place for COVID recovery. It could be a combination of all the above, but I do think climate's in the mix.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to imagine that it's not, just because everyone I've talked to who's spent any time in Texas or Phoenix this summer said that it was pretty brutal compared to Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
But that kind of moves on. You had an op-ed that I saw just came out this morning in the Wisconsin State Journal that's titled "Range of Rankings Exist on Whether Wisconsin is Good or Bad for Small Business." And so with this, are you specifically talking about small business? Because we talked about this a little bit before, is that sometimes a startup versus a small business can get conflated, but they're very different. A startup often I think of is something that gets created with the intention of like high velocity growth, like having an exit strategy, whether that's an IPO or acquisition, versus a small business could stay small. And it is something that requires different kinds of funding, where you get funding from. And so with your article, are you talking more about both or one or the other?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. I mean, small businesses, you're right. It could be your classic Main Street business and retail or whatever else. So the column I wrote, it said, well, in some areas, like for longevity, for example, survival of a small business, we're actually ranked number 2 in the country by at least one source. That's great. I think there's a little Midwest stubbornness involved in that, but that's okay.
Absolutely.
Right?
I will not give up. I will not give up.
That's what we do. But then there are some other rankings that were pretty far down, but I think in general, we're probably somewhere in the middle right now in terms of, the kinds of resources that are available, which is pretty good. The kinds of help that entrepreneurs and small businesses can get, which can be pretty good. You got to make sure you know what you're looking for, but yes, it can be good. I think the overall tax burden is probably a little higher than you're going to see other places, But then you're going to see things, intangibles like hospital quality, for example, which there was a recent Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services survey that showed Wisconsin, pretty high up. So if you look at school, all the kinds of things that support a general community as well as what supports the business, I feel like we're doing pretty well. There's always room to do better, always room to do more. But that's how that column. I took a look. It depends on where you are in the state and who's asking the question about how good we are.
Well, and who's producing the study? I get all those Wallet Hub. I feel like almost once a week there's some Wallet Hub, and it's like, all right, well, where's Wisconsin?
Right.
And sometimes I feel like a lot of measures were kind of middle of the pack, and which is kind of goes in line with what you just said as far as a place to start a business is. There's some measures that maybe were closer to the top, like the stubbornness and survivability, but there's also things. So as far as like your top 3, because Wisconsin Technology Council does advise and have input on policy, what's kind of the top 3 things that you think would make it easier for whether it's small businesses or for startups to thrive in Wisconsin, if you had your wish list?
Sure. Well, we touched on 2 of them, at least briefly. One would be in rural parts of Wisconsin, we still need to do a better job around broadband. You have to be able to make sure that Main Street business in whatever smaller town has the ability to be a business that could reach nationwide, globally, whatever, if they have the right product. So that's one. The other is capital. We work very hard at the Tech Council to try to see that there's enough capital, especially for those tech-related startups in Wisconsin, but there's always a need for more. We're still probably punching a little below our weight and where we should be on capital. That's one, and then finally, the biggest one today is actually workforce. That if whether you're a pretty new company or one that's got some wind in your sails already, you want to make sure you got the talent to get it done. And that's where we just held an event that featured the UW system president, the tech college president, and the president of the independent colleges. And we dove in to ask them specifically, what are you doing to help crank out those kinds of workers? And it was good to hear, because in many cases there are partnerships with business itself to try to solve some of those problems.
And that's actually, I mean, we talk about workforce issues all the time. And so specifically, what do you see as, if we're talking about a young person looking at the survey and the different kinds of jobs that they could have, what do you see like 5 to 10 years from now are the industries that we really need to be filling, and as the top priority?
Yeah. Well, I think in some ways it might look a little bit like it does now in terms of the IT, the explosion in AI, and what that's going to do in both a human and in a business sense as that evolves. I think there will continue to be innovation around healthcare, which Wisconsin has a great start on. I think we have a lot of strong companies here, and certainly a lot of strong research institutions that can really add to that. So those are some areas. But at the end of the day, we're still a manufacturing state too.
Yeah.
And so I think you might see more young people, even if they don't go to college or tech college right away, they'll probably want to come back and gain some kind of certificate or some kind of, a fast way to get up to speed in wherever they've already started. So I think that's going to be out there. I think manufacturing is going to remain pretty hot in Wisconsin, and I think it's going to be driven in part by innovation, especially around resiliency, the notion of what can keep those businesses operating at a profit and in a way that they're not, contributing to the, other environmental issues that cause it to be hot in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that you mentioned that, because we were going to talk about in the next segment, the coolest things in Wisconsin, made in Wisconsin. Contest from WMC just launched, and so we're going to talk about some of the items that you may not realize that are still made in Wisconsin, and celebrating things that are made in our state. But I also wanted to, before we have to let you go, you guys have an event coming up in November, the Early Stage Symposium. So what is the Early Stage Symposium?
Yeah, it's a conference we've put on for about 20 plus years now, and it is a matchmaking event between angel and venture capitalists and young companies. It's going to be at Monona Terrace, November 8th. That's the convention center in Madison. It's our biggest event of the year. And so we see investors from all over the region, not just Wisconsin, but well beyond. And young companies, same, mostly from Wisconsin, but sometimes others come in because they want to be here. It's if
There's
you
no barrier to entry that you have to be a Wisconsin company.
no,
Okay.
especially if I find out there's a way to maybe try to get them here. So
There you go.
that's always a plus. But it is it's at its heart a pitch event. So a certain level of young companies would take part in a 5-minute pitch segments that we have there. That's going to be a couple of dozen companies there, so plenty of room. And then we have something called our elevator pitch Olympics, which is 90 seconds and a cloud of dust, really. I mean, it's a quick hit, but it's judged by investors from all over. And so it's our own little Shark Tank. And in fact, we did this before Shark Tank. So
There you go. So it predates. Are the personalities as big as the personalities on Shark Tank as far as who the judges are?
sometimes I haven't met a whole lot of shy investors. So yes, it can get pretty funny.
I
And,
bet.
but they're at the same time they're very constructive.
Yeah.
I don't see people rip to shreds by it, but the investors tell them, hey, here's what you might want to do to move to another level and polish it up a bit. And so it's really a lot of fun. A lot of people like it.
And our application's still open for startups to join and be in the competition?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to keep that open till October 6th.
All
And
right.
we have a steering committee that helps us pick those companies. So it's not just us. So there's some others who are out there in the tech world who have some great expertise, and we get them involved.
All right. Well, we'll put that link on our show notes for today. Tom Still, always fun to talk to you. He is the president of the Wisconsin Technology Council. Thank you for your insight and your input today. It's so good.
Oh.
It's always so good to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's always great to be a part of it. Thanks, Greg and Kristen. Take care.
All right. Have a great day. All right. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, this will still be As Goes Wisconsin.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
All of these things consistently come down to this willingness of people to give up their agency and the willingness of Donald Trump and those who support him to leverage and abuse people's trust in them to further their own personal power and enrichment.
The Maggie Dawn Show, weeknights at 6 p.m. on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. The Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
100 degrees. Ramaswamy literally said global climate change, human and affected climate change is a hoax.
Ron DeSantis effectively pivoted on the debate stage, said, I'm not going to answer your damn question because it will expose us as climate change denialists, which puts them in a minority, certainly with younger voters. Young people care about the future of this world, Don.
The Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Direct from the Dairy State. It's Sharp Cheddar Weekends, a 3-hour block of Wisconsin-produced radio, Saturdays and Sundays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m., featuring Raised in Wisco with Joe Clayfish and Danielle Fairman, The Cripescast with Charlie Behrens, and Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown. You can enjoy it by the slice or enjoy the whole darn thing. Sharp Cheddar Weekends is radio so fresh, it squeaks. Listen in on the Civic Media station or on the app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon, with daytime highs approaching 68. Northwest winds around 5 miles an hour. Overcast tonight, lows around 52. Chance for scattered showers again tomorrow, 66. Upper 70s Wednesday and Thursday, with a chance for scattered storms Wednesday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height.
is another challenging day because I have high emotional intelligence. It was there was challenges, but as I said, we cleared them. We got to where we need. Big thanks to Corey and Calvin for helping out on that.
Yes,
but yeah,
absolutely.
But feeling good. How are you feeling?
It's funny because I think I've mentioned before, maybe this was last week with Dr. Lyerly, of like the most important thing you can do while pregnant is keep your stress levels down.
Yeah.
Today didn't help that.
Yeah, but you're really good at after, you get in the moment, but then you have to move on. You're a professional. You have to do the show. So you get back in the groove, you
Get back in the groove.
Get back in that groove thing, baby.
All right. Well, as I said, when we were just talking to Tom Still from Wisconsin Technology Council, I saw this morning. The time has come again to vote for the coolest thing made in Wisconsin.
And you can't vote for Kristen's baby.
You can't vote for. Yes. How cool would it be if you could, though?
Award-winning baby.
On last Thursday, Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce released a list of more than 100 nominees hoping to compete in the 8th annual contest. And the first round of voting starts today. And this round of voting will determine the top 16. But it's not, when you go to the website, which I was perusing this morning, it's not like a bracket.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Oh.
So you actually have to go through, which I feel like skews the voting, if I'm going to be totally honest, because you probably can send people, if you're this company that's nominated, you're like, go vote for us, because it's not necessarily the most user friendly to go through and like see everything that's nominated, but you should still do it because it's actually kind of fun to see everything that is still made in Wisconsin, including of which, and it's funny because I had no idea. Do you know that Carmex lip balm made in Wisconsin?
I did know that.
I
did know that.
Karma Labs in Franklin.
Yeah, I knew that. Feel good about that knowledge.
But that feels like, I don't know what the criteria is to be nominated for this, because that Carmex has been around forever. So
Yeah.
I would think that it would be like newer stuff, but maybe it's like you can defend your title each year because it doesn't have to be something that's been created or is new to market.
Maybe a legacy bracket, or not a category, not bracket. Sorry, legacy category.
Oh, okay.
Like Milwaukee Tools and
Yeah. So the top 16 will be in a tournament style bracket, but first it's just like the 100-some products that you have to go click through on, and I'll put the link in today's show notes, but it's madeinwis.com, and that will take you to voting. But it's interesting because, like, what is cool? That's what I looking at this list, that's like, to say coolest.
The fact that we're asking.
I feel like the word cool is like, to have that be the descriptor, and like the criteria is like very, very subjective.
I wanted to be in the room when they came up with this, and someone's like, let's look for the coolest thing. And there's some intern who's like 21, and they're just like, oh, this is so uncool.
Because there are some things on here that look very cool. So the Troy Indy Special, the company is 715 Motorworks in Three Lakes, Wisconsin.
Okay.
The Troy Indy Special is a custom-made race car for the road, designed, customized, and hand-built by a small team of fabricators in the heart of the Northwoods, better known as Three Lakes, Wisconsin. The Troy Indy Special has made its debut next to the best of the best of Motorworks in the U.S. and has been featured on Jay Leno's Garage Series. From its custom design, detailed fabrication, and pristine quality, you'll want to get your hands on one of these limited custom roadsters.
You are just doing a commercial.
As there will only be 33 Troy Indies fabricated. So that, to me, is cool.
Yeah.
The screw press separator from All Ins Enterprises, LLC in Fond du Lac looks less cool, if I'm being totally honest. Like, it looks very functional.
Yeah.
It looks very like it works and it does its job. But as far as it being cool, I don't know. But then there's also the Ben Schott propeller glass.
Oh my God.
Made in Appleton by Ben Schott LLC.
Are they called shot glasses?
No, the elevate your drinking game with these handcrafted glasses featuring a solid metal propeller embedded right into the side. The perfect addition to any home bar or hangar. Each glass is high quality, heavy, and handcrafted in our glass workshop in Wisconsin. All packaging and raw materials are made in the USA. Each propeller is cast out of metal by a US-based expert jeweler. Our team then assembles, adds a patina finish, and embeds each propeller onto the glass. So, like, that's kind of cool. Is it functional? I don't know.
Yeah. The screw press separator, like it's like very Ron Swanson. We're like we want to put your thing on there. That's great. Thank you.
Exactly. So I highly recommend, because there's a skee ball machine on here.
Ooh.
There it looks like there is a wash bar, like an automated, but there's also wine and cheese.
Okay.
And so it like runs, it's not just like physical like manufactured type goods. Some of it is still food. So it's kind of fun to go through here. And beer tap handles. Custom made beer tap handles.
You know, I love beer tap handles. You go to the different breweries and you see how they take the concept, and some places they're very ornate. Sometimes they're just a block of wood with their initials burned in, and it's very simple. I love it. I love that stuff.
Jolly Good Soda, classic.
The pride of Random Lakes.
Yeah, there. So it's really fun to kind of go through here, and some of it is like, it's definitely, and there's an electric mower. It's really runs the gambit.
I'm buying one of those soon. Oh no, electric snowblower.
Oh, so you plug it in and charge it up?
Oh, not electric. Yeah, it's run by batteries.
But yeah, so you have to charge the battery, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be so cool. Can't wait.
So yeah, so if you want to vote for this, I will link I'll put the link in the show notes for today, so you can kind of just go through and see some of the things, the range of products that are made in Wisconsin, but also what is cool.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like most useful, most innovative, like thing you'd be most likely to brag about, of like, oh, that's made in Wisconsin.
Slick
like,
looking.
Spotted cow, you know? But I thought that was a fun thing to end on for the day. What is this one? Mushroom gin.
Hard pass on both. I love mushrooms. I can't drink gin.
Did you have a bad experience one?
Oh yeah. It's a whole different Greg.
What kind of gin was it? Was it like rail gin?
No,
it was
no, gin is bad for me.
Oh.
It's bad. It's bad.
Bad Greg comes out.
Horrible Greg comes out.
Got it. Say no more.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for listening today. Thank you to Joe McClear. Thank you to Tom Still. Thank you to Tanya Atkinson. Thank you to all of the people who are letting us know when they can and cannot hear us and helping us fix this stuff live on air. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your patience. I promise we are working towards getting this to be as smooth and operational as possible.
Oh, we're getting there.
We're getting there. This has been As Goes Wisconsin. Come back tomorrow at 10 a.m.